evening, my witchlings. Tonight we will be talking about working with the moon. The working moon. Every magical practitioner should know which days to work and which to take off, which moon phases are best for what kind of casting, and which are for rest. These guidelines are not cast in stone, and certainly if you have a friend in dire need of healing, you don't need to wait until the next waxing moon to cast. But for some of the best results, here are a few guidelines, interesting tidbits, and helpful information. Picture the movement of the moon in terms of a clock, whose hands are moving backward. The moon rests on the clock's hour hand. Earth sits at the clock's center, while the sun shines far off in the direction of 12 o'clock. As the moon orbits counterclockwise around Earth, its position relative to the sun and Earth changes, giving us the varied phases of the moon. Each phase of the moon lasts approximately 5 days. The first phase in the lunar cycle is the new moon. The new moon, the moon is positioned between the sun and Earth at 12 o'clock. From Earth, the sun and moon appear to be in the same part of the sky and will rise and set together. The side of the moon that receives the sun's light is facing away from Earth, so no moon is visible to us on Earth's surface. On a very clear night, you might be able to make out a faint gray outlined view of the moon. This comes from the light of the sun being refracted off the Earth and back out to the moon. One day after the new moon, a faint silver outline can be seen low on the western horizon at sunset. The moon has moved from new to a waxing crescent phase. As the moon continues in its counterclockwise orbit, the crescent grows larger, or waxes. 1 week later, the moon reaches its second primary phase, the first quarter moon. Accordingly, the moon has moved 1/4 of the way around Earth for several days after first quarter. The moon continues to wax, but it is in a waxing gibbous phase instead of a waxing crescent. A gibbous moon is more than a quarter moon, but less than a full moon. During this phase, the moon moves from 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock on the dial, and the Sun-Earth-Moon angle is getting larger, just like the moon's phase. When the moon reaches its 6 o'clock position, the phase is full. The side of the moon that faces Earth is fully illuminated, like a moonball. On the clock, the sun, Earth, and moon form a straight line. From Earth, the sun and moon appear to be at opposite ends of the sky. So as the sun sets, the moon rises. The full moon is now visible all night. Once it's past full, the moon moves from 6 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and the sun, Earth, and moon angle begins to shrink. The moon's phase is also getting smaller. It's moving from waning gibbous to its third or last quarter phase. As the moon orbits Earth, the inner circle, its position relative to the sun and Earth, changes. This causes the lunar phases we see in our sky. The outer circle, in the week after the third quarter, the moon moves through its waning crescent phase to its dark phase, about 3 to 5 days before the eventual return to the new moon phase, where the cycle begins again. The moon enters a dark phase. The moon sits at about 2:30 on the dial. Here the moon is neither illuminated by the sun in a crescent phase, nor is it able to reflect the light of the sun, providing an outline of its surface, as in the new moon phase. It is truly dark and seemingly has disappeared from the sky. Each phase of the moon brings with it a special energy for that phase of the lunar cycle. Everyone knows the moon affects the tides of the world's oceans, but because we are mostly liquid ourselves, these phases also affect us. Understanding what these energies bring help you to connect with and use those energies in your magical rituals, meditations, and even your daily life. The new moon phase is best used for personal growth, healing, and blessing of new projects and ventures. It's also a good time to cleanse and consecrate new tools and objects you wish to use during rituals, ceremonies, or an upcoming festival. The waxing moon is best used for attraction magic, inner love spells, protection for couples, and healing energy for couples. What you want to attract to yourself and your path can be enhanced during this phase of the moon. The full moon is best used for banishing unwanted influences in your life. Think of it as shining a light on issues of challenges. It can also be a good time for creating protection magic and performing divination. You can use this time for releasing old patterns or issues and open the door for healing by giving energy to positive patterns you'll put in place. Full moon magic can be conjured during the 3 days prior to the rise of the full moon, the night of the full moon, and during the 3 days after. The waning moon is used for banishing and rejecting those things that influence us in a negative way. Negative emotions, diseases, ailments, and bad habits can all be let go, and special spells for clearing negative energies from the self, home, ritual circle, tools, and so on can be performed at this time. Simply remember that when you remove an energy, you want to fill the void with a more positive energy. So this is also a good time to consecrate the future with what you want it to be as you move forward. Void, of course, the dark moon period, occurs 3 days prior to the new moon, and it's the shortest phase of the moon. This is the time when you can't see the moon in any phase. Typically, no magic is performed during this time. This is the time to give yourself a break, to turn to self and pamper or replenish your own energies. Vision quests and deep meditations are called for at this time to focus on personal matters, questions and answers. The void, of course, moon is not recognized through astronomical means. It's purely a nature-based observance or astrological phase. A lunar eclipse occurs when the moon passes into the Earth's shadow. This type of eclipse does not occur every year, but when it does, it's a wonderful and magical night. It lasts for only a few hours, so you need to plan your rituals well in advance. A lunar eclipse on a full moon is perfect for all purposes. Simply plan your spells to coordinate with the passing shadow. When the moon is in full eclipse, treat those few moments as if the moon were in its dark phase. Some practitioners forego magic work altogether and use this time to honor the goddess or god in a special ritual. A blue moon occurs when 2 full moons happen in one calendar month. Since the phase period of the moon is 29.5 days, usually we have 1 full moon each month. But each month, it's a little earlier than the previous month, and eventually you'll find 2 full moons in a single month. This occurs about every 2.5 years, and the second full moon is called the blue moon. There is no physical difference in appearance. The second full moon looks like a regular full moon. According to folklorists, the term blue moon is at least 400 years old. The earliest known references to a blue moon were intended as examples of imperturbable events, or something that could never happen. As time passed, the expression evolved to mean something that rarely or never happened. Hence the expression, once in a blue moon, which is still popular today. In the pagan community, the origins of the meaning of a blue moon vary, and the legend of the origin of these meanings cannot be substantiated. However, some believe the second full moon holds the knowledge of the grandmother goddess or the crone, and therefore contains the wisdom of threefold the energy. This can be associated with the goddess in her three forms of maiden, mother, and crone. It can also be associated with three natures of self as mind, body, and spirit. In later evolutions, as paganism began to be influenced by Christianity, this moon was associated with the divine trinity of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. In other pagan traditions, the phases of the moon represent the transition of knowledge within the goddess. The quarter moons representing the maiden goddess, the new moon, the mother goddess, the full moon, the grandmother goddess, which may be one reason we refer to the moon as grandmother moon. The blue moon then is seen as the transition of the grandmother or crone to the divine level of existence. She becomes an expression of evolution of wisdom, as well as an example of the circle of life. Another view is that the blue moon represents a time of heightened or clear communication between our physical being and the divine. Often the energy of the divine is seen in the form of the grandmother goddess or the crone goddess. It can also be viewed as a link between the physical, masculine energy, making, and the spiritual, the feminine energy, making communication with spirit easier and more apt to yield insightful and enlightened communications. According to NASA and folklore, October's full moon is called the hunter's moon, or sometimes the blood moon. It gets its name from hunters who tracked and killed their prey by autumn moonlight, stockpiling food for the winter ahead. You can picture them, silent figures padding through the forest, the moon overhead, pale as a corpse, its cold light betraying the creatures of the wood. But most do agree on the alias, blood moon, during the 3 months of fall, when hunting and harvesting take place. Today, the blood moon is typically associated with the first full moon nearest the autumn equinox. For us in the northern hemisphere, that occurs in October, but it can occur as early as September, the fruit moon, and as late as November, the beaver moon, as the earth tilts back away from the sun. Consequently, these same effects can be seen in the southern hemisphere on the opposite side of the year, corresponding to the full moons of March, April, and May. Observance during the blood moon. During the autumn months, the blood moon represents abundance, hunting, gathering, and preparing for the cold winter months. It's time to honor the harvest and hunting gods, goddesses. Many festivals take place during this time to give thanks and appreciation for the bounty and stockpiles of plenty gathered by a clan or tribe. The Feast of the Hunter's Moon is a long-standing practice in Indiana, where a living Native American history reenactment takes place, but similar events can be found around the world and with varying names. From a magical point of view, the same concepts can be intact today for these full moons rituals. They can be used to bring abundance into your life in the form of finances, harvest, health, friendship, and love, and to give thanks in honoring the blessings of the harvest. A blood moon eclipse, now let's say, you had a spaceship and traveled out between the Earth and the Moon during an eclipse. Look out the window back at Earth, and you'll be looking at the dark side. The Earth will be in silhouette, and what you're seeing is it every sunrise and sunset on Earth, all at once. The spring of light shines into Earth's shadow, breaking the utter darkness you might expect to find there. Turn off the cockpit lights and look at the moon, and there's a lovely red glow. What's in the Earth's atmosphere will also affect the color or shade of red reflected on the moon, according to NASA. Following a volcanic eruption, for instance, dust and ash can turn global sunsets vivid red. The moon would glow vivid red too. Lots of clouds, on the other hand, extinguish sunsets, leading to darker, dimmer eclipses. The moon can shine as pumpkin orange to deep blood red, all depending on the Earth's weather or natural events. Observances during the blood moon eclipse. Since an eclipse is an extra special event, it has a special energy and observance, especially when it's a rare blood moon eclipse. These special occasions are used for honoring and celebrating life, or the blood flow of life. This energy of the moon can be used to energize fertility, abundance, or communicate with spirit. Placement of the moon in the heavens through astrology is not the same as it is physical placement through astronomy. In earlier times, farmers used a solar, lunar, and astrological calendar to ensure the proper planting period for their gardens and fields. Here in the US and Canada, Benjamin Franklin published the first horoscopes in his Philadelphia Daily, which included a monthly entry concerning gardening planting. The water signs are the best for planting. When the moon is in Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces are the best times. But Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn can be follow-up alternatives. Weeding and plowing. When the moon moves into Aries, Gemini, Leo, Sagittarius, and Aquarius, remove weeds and inspect your plants for pests. Transplanting and grafting. Transplanting and grafting are best done when the moon enters Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Pruning. Pruning is best done during Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius. Try to schedule your pruning during a waxing moon to encourage growth. Keep it clean and mend it. Clean out your shed during a Virgo moon to help the work move along smoothly. Mend fences, gardening stakes, and beds during a Capricorn moon, etc. Avoid making decisions when the moon is in Libra, though.